Police officers are supposed to protect us. They are symbols of law, order, and justice. But what happens when those we trust the most turn into the very monsters they are supposed to stop? Today, we are diving into the horrifying true stories of police officers who use their badges not to serve and protect, but to hunt, torture, and kill. These cases are some of the most shocking and disturbing crimes ever committed, proving that sometimes the most dangerous criminals are the ones in uniform. Get ready to explore the dark side of humanity, where nothing is as it seems. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because you won't want to miss the twists ahead. Gerard Schaefer, the sadistic serial killer cop. Gerard Schaefer wore the badge of a Florida sheriff's deputy, but behind his uniform he was a sadistic serial killer who used his position to lure victims into his web of horror. He didn't just kill. He tortured, humiliated, and enjoyed the suffering of his victims before brutally ending their lives. Schaefer had a specific type: young women, usually hitchhikers or runaways, who trusted a police officer when he offered them a ride. But instead of helping them, he would take them deep into the woods, where their nightmare began. One of his favorite methods of torture was hanging his victims from trees, tying them up in such a way that they would be forced to stand on their toes to keep from strangling. He would watch them struggle, whispering to them, taunting them, playing a cruel game of life and death. Some of his victims were blindfolded and gagged, while others were left to starve, slowly dying in agony. He didn't just kill for pleasure. He documented everything in sickening detail, keeping diaries filled with his fantasies and the horrors he inflicted on his victims. Schaefer was finally caught in 1972 when two teenage girls managed to escape his clutches. They ran straight to the police and reported what had happened, leading to Schaefer's arrest. But what investigators found when they searched his home was beyond anything they had imagined. They uncovered dozens of trophies from his victims: jewelry, clothing, even human remains. His diaries described the brutal killings of at least 30 women, though he was only convicted for 2 murders. In prison, Schaefer was just as brutal. He often mocked the families of his victims, even writing letters to them, boasting about what he had done. But in 1995, justice caught up to him when he was found stabbed to death in his prison cell, killed by another inmate who had grown sick of his arrogance. Antoinette Frank, the cop who became a cold-blooded killer. Unlike most serial killers, Antoinette Frank was not only a police officer, she was actively serving when she committed her crimes. As a cop in New Orleans, she was supposed to protect her community, but in reality, she was a cold-blooded killer who had no loyalty to her badge or to human life. One of her most notorious crimes took place in 1995 at a Vietnamese restaurant, where she often worked as a security officer. Late at night, she arrived at the restaurant with an accomplice, a local drug dealer. The two had planned to rob the owners, but what happened next was far worse than just a robbery. Antoinette entered the restaurant and walked directly up to her own police partner, Ronald Williams. Without hesitation, she pulled out her gun and shot him dead on the spot. But she didn't stop there. She then walked into the back room, where the owner's teenage children were hiding, and executed them one by one. Little did she know, the children's mother was still alive, hiding under a table, watching the entire massacre unfold. After Frank and her accomplice fled, the terrified woman immediately called the police. When officers arrived, they were shocked to discover that the suspect was one of their own. Antoinette Frank, dressed in her police uniform, returned to the crime scene, pretending to be a concerned officer. But her act didn't fool anyone. She was arrested on the spot, and the evidence against her was overwhelming. During the trial, it was revealed that Antoinette had a long history of mental instability and criminal activity, even stealing guns from the police department. She was sentenced to death, making her one of the few female officers in history to be put on death row. Joseph James DeAngelo, the Golden State Killer, who hid behind a badge for over 4 decades. The Golden State Killer terrorized California, committing at least 13 murders, over 50 rapes, and 100+ burglaries. His crimes were brutal and sadistic. He didn't just kill, he toyed with his victims, whispering terrifying things in their ears, making them feel hopeless before taking their lives. But what's even more chilling is that for part of his killing spree, he was a police officer. Joseph James DeAngelo worked as a cop in the 1970s, but even before joining the force, he was already on a dark path. While working as a police officer, he was secretly breaking into homes at night, attacking couples while they slept. He would tie up the husband, forcing him to watch as he sexually assaulted the wife, often whispering disturbing things in their ears, telling them he would come back for them. He would steal small personal items, rings, keys, driver's licenses, as trophies. Some victims survived and described him as a monster in human form, but for decades he remained a ghost. It wasn't until 2018, over 40 years after his first attack, that DeAngelo was finally unmasked. Investigators used DNA from genealogy websites to track him down, discovering that he had been living a normal life, married with children, while hiding his horrific past. When police arrived at his home, he acted calm, as if he knew his time had come. In 2020, he pleaded guilty to all charges and was sentenced to life in prison. His case remains one of the most chilling examples of how a police officer used his knowledge of law enforcement to evade capture for decades. Drew Peterson, the cop who killed his wives. Drew Peterson was a police sergeant in Illinois, but instead of upholding the law, he became infamous for the mysterious deaths and disappearances of his wives. A charming but controlling man, Peterson used his law enforcement experience to manipulate, threaten, and ultimately murder the women in his life, all while evading justice for years. Peterson's dark side first came to light in 2007, when his fourth wife, Stacy Peterson, mysteriously vanished without a trace. At first, he claimed she had run away with another man, but Stacy had confided in friends and family that she was terrified of her husband. She had planned to leave him, but before she could escape, she disappeared. Her body was never found, and Drew's calm, arrogant behavior in interviews made people suspicious. As the investigation into Stacy's disappearance unfolded, police re-examined the suspicious death of Peterson's third wife, Kathleen Savio, who had died in 2004. Initially ruled an accidental bathtub drowning, a second autopsy revealed she had been murdered, drowned after a violent struggle. Investigators realized that Peterson had staged the scene to make it look like an accident, fooling authorities for years. With mounting evidence, Peterson was finally arrested in 2009 and convicted of Kathleen Savio's murder in 2012. He was sentenced to 38 years in prison, but his legal troubles didn't end there. In 2016, he was convicted again, this time for plotting to have the prosecutor in his case murdered from behind bars. This added an additional 40 years to his sentence, ensuring he will never walk free again. Despite overwhelming evidence, Peterson has never confessed to killing Stacy, and her body remains missing to this day. Many believe he used his police training to cover up the crime so well that investigators may never find the truth. His case is a chilling reminder that even high-ranking officers can use their power for evil, and that some killers are hiding in plain sight, protected by the very system meant to catch them. These cases remind us that evil can hide behind any mask, even that of a police officer. The people we trust the most can sometimes be the ones committing the worst crimes. When the protectors become the predators, no one is safe. Thank you for watching this video. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more updates. Let us know your thoughts in the comments below, and if you have any questions about this case or any other, feel free to ask.